Hello, everyone, and welcome to Healing Connections. This is Emmy Vadnais. I want to share with you about being in the flow, sometimes referred to as being in the zone. This is a time in your life when you are engaging in an activity where it is just harmoniously flowing. You are not striving or trying to make anything happen. Perhaps you're even using all or part of your skills and gifts just effortlessly, and you're not thinking about the past or the future. These are sometimes known as peak experiences, where you are just having things happen and you're feeling really good and just enjoying the present moment. This can also occur when you are perhaps enjoying maybe beautiful art or beautiful music, or you are daydreaming, looking out a window, or being in nature, just immersed in what's happening now. And this is what Ram Dass meant when he said, "Be here now," a book that he wrote with the same title that he learned from his guru, about just being in the present moment. And this is something that I think we all would like to be in, which is what mystics are likely in mystical states when they're connected to intuition and spirituality, where they are just dialed into the oneness of consciousness, which we can all be connected to, but we are not always connected to because we are maybe busy planning our lives, or maybe feeling fatigued or caught up in conflicts or challenges, making plans to overcome certain obstacles in our lives. And we can use this state of being in the flow even when we might have challenges in our lives. It's something that, ironically, when we let go, we can actually be more in this flow state. So Mihai Csikszentmihalyi wrote a book called Flow, The Psychology of Optimal Experience. And he says in there that in our studies, we found that every flow activity, whether it involved competition, chance, or any other dimension of experience, had this in common. It provided a sense of discovery, a creative feeling of transporting the person into a new reality. It pushed the person to higher levels of performance and led to previously undreamed states of consciousness. In short, it transformed the self by making it more complex. In this growth of the self lies the key to flow activities. So engaging in intuition and creative activities will likely help you feel more in the flow. When you're connected to and listening to your intuition, you are in the flow. And also, intuition can help you to choose meaningful activities in your life to induce that flow state. So maybe think about, when in your life have you been in this flow state, or when have you had a peak experience where you just felt maybe even high on life and where everything was just clicking for you? I know a few times in my life, I can think of those states. They happen more regularly now for me. And that's why I wanted to talk with you about this, because I think the more that you cultivate and engage in activities that help you to be in that flow, then you can be more in the flow with other activities. A time in my life where I can imagine being in the flow was when I was in college and when I would study hard for exams. And it seemed like such a challenge. We'd go into these lectures and get all have all these books and all these extra notes and outlines and experience in the biology lab. And I loved it, but it was so much information. And I really wondered, how was I going to overcome this obstacle? And so, of course, I learned how to study as well as I could. I had a study group and we taught each other. And I also allowed myself to, and I did enjoy the material. And I think that being in the flow, it's important to be engaging in activities that you do enjoy, because this is all part of connecting with your own unique sets of gifts and skills that you have. Because if you're going to engage in an activity that you don't enjoy or love, you're less likely to be in a flow state. And so, yes, of course, I chose to study the health sciences, psychology. I double majored in psychology, got a degree in occupational therapy. And so I really enjoyed the topics that we were learning. And I would put on music sometimes when I was studying and just really immerse myself in enjoying the process of learning and understanding, because ultimately I was in training to help people to overcome obstacles and barriers and challenges that they are having in their lives. And that inspired me to keep going. And that really helped me to be in that flow state. So when I would go and take my exams or give presentations or teach the class chapters that we had been sectioned out to teach each other, I could then be more passionate and be in a more state of joy and have that peak experience so that I could master those exams and do as well as I could in those presentations, in those lab exercises. And of course, there was learning along the way, but it did help me grow in tremendous ways that I could have never have dreamed possible. So again, think about in your life, when have you had a peak experience where you were being in the flow? I imagine that you've had one or several that would come to mind for you. And what made that experience a peak experience for you? How did that help you to be in the flow, to enjoy and just feel present and lovely? I also think of energy. When I think of being in the flow, it seems that it's sort of like a beautiful stream or a lazy river just kind of meandering down, or maybe a path of just moving down effortlessly without any resistance or barriers. And I think that that's what can keep us sometimes from being in those flow states, is that we do have thoughts and beliefs and challenges that might seemingly prevent us from allowing us to be in those states. We might think that, oh, I have to be able to achieve this goal in order for me to actually feel in the flow. And while that can be true, I would contend that you can feel in the flow while you are moving toward those goals or being in those goals. It's being in that flow of the river of life. And again, when I think of that flow, because I am trained in energy healing, first and foremost in Qigong energy healing that addresses the meridians of acupuncture, and it also works with all the energy systems in the body, because really at the end of the day, even though there's different perspectives and different ways of kind of slicing the apple, if you will, on providing energy healing, it's all working with universal consciousness, with love, to help that flow within your own core being, within your soul or spirit of who you are. And that's why I think that practices of yoga, qigong, various forms of energy healing as well, such as Reiki, acupressure, self-acupressure, all these different types of modalities or approaches, these self-care approaches, can help you to feel better in your body, mentally, but also physically as well, so that you can feel in the flow and feel as good as is possible for you. So some other activities that I just wanted to throw out, and by all means, this is not a complete list. I'm sure you can think of other activities, but just to kind of get the wheels turning of what might help you to engage or to feel being in the flow. I wanted to throw out, I mentioned the daydreaming, and part of that, why I came up with this topic, is because I've had a pretty full life, like I'm sure you do as well. We have so many demands and activities that require our attention. But I was just sitting at my kitchen table, and here it is in Minnesota. The leaves are falling off of the trees and the beautiful colors of fall are presenting themselves now. And I took my dog for a walk and I came back and just kind of sat and looked out the window before doing more activities of my day. And I recognized again how powerful daydreaming can be. So if you haven't done that in a while, I highly recommend allowing yourself to just look out a window, or better yet, if you can, and it's not too chilly or hot where you are, and you have the physical means to get out in nature and maybe just sit and be in nature, or go for a walk or a bike ride or a jog or whatever you would enjoy doing in nature. And as I've indicated before in the podcast and the writings that I've done, and referencing other people's great work, that being in nature is very profound and healing for our own health and wellness in and of itself, and can also be a great way to connect with intuition, which I would say is synonymous with being in the flow. And also, when you are in the state of love, you are in this state of flow. So cultivating love, noticing where you have barriers to love in your life. Where are you letting love come in and out of your life? How is your heart? Does your heart need healing? Do you have unresolved grief? Do you have unresolved resentments? Is there anyone or any organization or, I don't know, country that you need to work on forgiving, so that you can be more in that state of love? And I'm not just suggesting that then you accept other beings or organizations' poor behavior, but when you are more in a state of love, more connected with the all, the oneness that is all of us, in this state of love and flow, you can also then get more insight into how to, in the best way possible, resolve conflicts that you might be experiencing, to move toward forgiveness of yourself and others, and to move toward that self-love and self-compassion, to be in that flow. Because when we are resisting how we're feeling, if we have discomfort mentally or physically, then we can be less in the flow. And by all means, if you are experiencing some type of mental, emotional, or physical problem that's keeping you from being in the flow, I really hope that you do get support and reach out to the appropriate people in your life, or maybe even professionals, to help you so that you can get the support in that area and whatever healing you might need in that area. Meditation is a great way to connect with this flow state. And meditation, people think of like the lotus position, right? Like with yoga, sitting cross-legged, which of course can be a great way to cultivate the flow state and to get all of these amazing benefits, to work with your consciousness, to refine your consciousness, to get into this pure state. However, not everybody finds that to be their cup of tea. And maybe you want to have that kind of practice, but it maybe feels uncomfortable somehow. And I talk about in my book, and have written about ways to have a good, successful meditation practice to help you be in the flow with it, so that you can enjoy the process of it versus feeling like it's just one more thing to do, or that it's stressful to do, because it should be an enjoyable experience for you. Otherwise, you're not going to engage in it. And there's many types of meditation, and being in nature, going for a walk, can be a form of meditation. Baking or cooking can be a form of meditation. So again, meaning that with meditation, that you are allowing yourself to come into the present moment. And maybe you have a spiritual or religious practice where you engage in prayer. This can also help you to be in a flow state. Intention is very powerful. I just did a podcast episode on creating intentions that will work for you in your life. So if you haven't checked that out, do give that a listen, because that's going to support you with being in a flow state. If you have a belief that a flow state is too hard for you, how likely do you think it is you're actually going to get into a flow state? Probably not very likely. If you're more open to it and allowing and trusting, and perhaps even expecting, which is what beliefs are about, is your expectations, expecting that you can be in a flow state, it's more likely going to happen for you. Relaxation. Please do not underestimate the power of good old-fashioned relaxation techniques of breath work. There's a lot of great research coming out about how this is a great nerve that really demonstrates the mind-body connection, is the vagus nerve. That as we work with our breath, with deep breathing, slowing the breath down, the quality of our breath, so that it's slower and and we can actually get a more complete breath in and have a nice breath out, that we're increasing vagal tone, which can help us to be in a more relaxation response state, have more resiliency, build more resiliency in our life, so that when challenging or seemingly challenging experiences happen, maybe somebody says something to you that might catch you off guard, by practicing these activities, you're going to be able to respond better versus reacting in a way that might not be the best or could be potentially even harmful for you or the other individual. So I hope that you do cultivate some type of meditation or prayer or mindfulness practice. Mindfulness is really great too, because it takes the trying out of meditation, which is really, again, sometimes people can get overwhelmed with developing these practices, but the whole point is to just let go and be. And so in mindfulness, what we're really doing, which is based off of Vipassana practice from Buddhist meditation, which means clear seeing, so that you can just be in the moment with a state of unconditional love, unconditional acceptance, unconditional compassion for yourself and others, and really starting with yourself. So observing how you're feeling in this moment and knowing that it's okay for you to feel how you feel. Not necessarily to act out on some type of negative experience in a negative way, but for you to honor and respect perhaps your frustration if somebody treated you poorly, to bring love to yourself and to allow yourself to be okay with the emotions that you're having. Because what that does is it brings that love and healing to your experience, so that you can be in the flow with what you're feeling. Let those feelings flow like a cloud in the sky, like a beautiful autumn leaf in a river or a stream. So it doesn't get stuck and caught in your energy and your consciousness, your soul, your spirit. And then you can allow yourself to just be with what is and not judge it. And then to let whatever you might be experiencing be less likely to get stuck in you. And so that you can bring love to your experiences and know that it's okay for you to feel how you're feeling. And again, by all means, if you do have some type of challenge with yourself or somebody else, to get the support, or perhaps what's great about being in the flow, connected to your intuition, to these higher states of being, this higher vibration, which is really, I believe, our true selves, you can then have more creative solutions to challenges in your life. You can find the best way to approach perhaps individuals and have those meaningful, heartfelt conversations that are more gentle, loving, and kind to yourself and others, so that we're not creating more disharmony, distress, and discomfort, and really even at extremes, hate or war between each other. So those are just some examples of ways to be in the flow. A few more are to perhaps surround yourself with beauty. What's beautiful to you? Maybe it's art. Maybe it's people. Maybe there are certain people you just feel really good to be around. Maybe it's reading inspiring literature or poetry or stories. Maybe it's writing, creative literature, writing, poetry, or stories. Maybe it's listening to music that just makes you feel high and really happy, or maybe really peaceful. Or maybe it's creating music that you enjoy. Maybe it's listening to amazing vocalists or singers or orators or speakers. Or maybe it's creating a powerful speech or singing or toning. Or again, back kind of makes me think of that energy vibration, working with singing bowls or crystals, or maybe it's being around flowers. I have a garden. I love my garden. And so that just gives me great joy. And I very much feel in the moment, in the flow when I'm in my garden. Aromatherapy or essential oils can help you with that. Maybe these sensual experiences can also bring us into our body and into the present moment, right? If our mind is kind of all over the place, it can help us connect. But then again, ironically, then we are connected to the oneness or the all at the same time. So it's very fascinating how that works. So maybe some other sensory experiences could be cooking or baking. And of course, with my background, I also think about various forms of activities that can simultaneously stimulate the mind, the body, and spirit, such as the beautiful practice of yoga, the 8 limbs of yoga, doing the asanas, the various limbs of studying those, and meditation is one of those limbs. Maybe practicing Tai Chi or Qigong. Perhaps it is getting some type of manual therapy or body work, such as massage therapy, which is very lovely, craniosacral therapy, acupressure, or learning how to engage in these self-healing, self-care activities yourself. And I do have some videos on YouTube around that as well, so that you can work with your own energy. Perhaps even you want to learn how to help the energy channels or the chakras in your energy system, the part of your soul or spirit that's connected to the seemingly physical body, so that you can be more in the flow. So I hope this was helpful. Thank you so much for listening to me on ways that you can be more in the flow, have more peak experiences, and really just enjoy more moments in your life. Thank you so much for joining me. Until next time, be well. Namaste.